morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's 10 o'clock, so I call this meeting to order. We will begin this morning as usual with an invocation followed by the pledges. Dear Lord, I come to you this morning and thank you for the start of another day, another week. We thank you, Lord, for a week in which we'll celebrate Independence Day. We thank you, Lord, for the many freedoms that we enjoy here in America. Pray that we would not take that for granted. We thank you, Lord, for our men and women in uniform. Pray that you'd be with us in all the decisions before us today and in the week ahead. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Trying to get your attention.
Settle down now.
Who gave? I didn't mean for it to be that loud. It's just.
All right, the next item we have on our agenda is citizens communication. Anyone who would like to address the court on any county-related business is welcome to do so at this time. Mr. Bondero, you're back.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, I'm Michael.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Michael Monroe. I'm from 2107 North Bend, Jordan. My timing belt broke, and I have one of those ones that's called an interference engine. That means it messes up your pistons and your valves, and you have to buy another engine. And it took like 125 days for my engine to come in and for it to get installed. So I've been riding a bicycle for 125 days. So I learned Victoria is not bicycle friendly. I would buy another car just for a backup.
Yeah, but you look like you lost some weight. You look good.
I do look better, but chasing those pit bulls, one time I realized I couldn't outrun him, so I slammed on the brakes and jammed it so he couldn't get to me, but thanks for the compliment. I was going to talk about Midcoast. They're having a sale on the first Saturday of every month, and it will be this Saturday. And like, for instance, I bought a lamp in mint condition for $3.25, and a nice chair similar to this for $5, you know. And if anyone needs to donate stuff, you know, to give to the poor so they can buy them real cheap, it's at 2102 North Bend, Jordan. It's a thrift store, and it's a real popular place, and it's going to be half price on this Saturday. And also, I would like to thank whoever. I've been working on this case for like a year. The water fountain case. Someone fixed it. I appreciate it. You know, I pressed it, and I couldn't believe it worked and stuff. I couldn't. A lot of attorneys was trying to use it, you know, rookie attorneys, and they can't figure it out. They gave up. They just brought bottled water and stuff. And also, someone trashed out Queen City Park on Sunday, and the Victoria Parks and Recreation had to come there around 7 a.m. and clean it up. And someone trashed out Christ Kitchen. There's trash all over. There's about a dozen big dogs running loose at Christ Kitchen, Queen City Park, Queen City, and, you know, someone needs to be accountable for the dogs and the trash. I appreciate what Mark's done. He gave a big speech at the city council over some of the things he's implementing, which is a big improvement. But I do wish someone could take care of all those dogs and that trash at Christ Kitchen. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's pathetic. And I wish people would pick up after themselves, but they're not going to do that. So the government's going to have to get involved with it and maybe hire a contractor to take care of it. Thanks, and have a good morning. Appreciate
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Glad to have you back.
Thanks.
Shannon, how are you
Good
this
morning.
morning?
Shannon, good morning.
Judge, Commissioners, great to be here. Thank you so much for all you do for our community. I get to live in the great county of Victoria, and Commissioner Martin's precinct, and so
We're
I
sorry.
want to appreciate you guys for all that you've done with all the flooding and the mosquito eradication. I had a garage sale this last weekend, and I did not get bit that much, so that was a good thing. The reason I'm here today, though, is because I represent the Texas General Land Office of Government and Community Relations, and so y'all have had a lot of experiences with our office, with the grants that we have coming into Drea County. And I had a call from Representative Louderback and asking about the status of y'all's grants. And so I looked into it, and we have heard back that y'all are in the last part of the approval process, and we should be hearing something in mid-July on the announcements for all of the approvals of the applications. And then once it gets from that point, then you'll start moving into the contracting period where you start signing documents. And then from there, you start moving into doing your kickoff meetings and startup documents approved in court. And then you'll start going through your environmental process. So you still, have a long way to go. It's a very long and arduous process. We have a lot of regulations that we have to abide by because we are operating under HUD's federal guidelines. And so all of those processes take a long time. And so we want to make sure that we're doing all that we can to make sure you don't have to pay your money back. And it does take a long time. But we want to make sure that we have good communication with you. And so if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to me again anytime. We want to make sure there's no bottlenecks. And so if you feel like there's any kind of bottleneck going on, we want to make sure we address that appropriately. So while I'm here too, one thing that we want to talk about all the time is we have our dry bags, our document bags. We want to remind the communities that that you need to prepare ahead of time for a disaster. And so we pass these out. They're free from the General Land Office. We bring them to the community. We brought them to Rick and the emergency management team. And we're willing to pass them out to anybody in the community that is wanting to do a community event to help the community prepare. So this is great because it talks about all of the different documents that you should prepare for. I always tell people, put your documents in ahead of time, then put it in a fireproof box. So then you have, it's water safe and fireproof, both. And then on the back, we have, a little bit of what we do. So we do the Alamo, Archives and Records, Coastal, Community Development and Revitalization, which is what I do. And then we have the Texas Veterans Land Board and Permanent School Fund. So lots of things going on at the General Land Office. If you ever need anything or have any questions, I'm happy to direct you to the right folks over there. So anyway, that's it for me.
Well, thank you for that, Shannon. And the grant you're referring to, that's the
Mid-mod, right?
Mid-mod.
The
Yes.
mid-mod.
Which, it seems like we've been talking about that for a while. That's what goes through the Regional Planning Commission?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Robin, were there some specific, I know this has been an ongoing discussion, or are there specific things we were looking at getting? A lot of the mechanics of this, Shannon, are over my head, and I'm not directly involved in it, but I know it's been an ongoing challenge. Robin, you've been real involved in this. Does that answer our questions, or?
It is in line with the timelines that we've received from them previously. We do keep up and ask for timelines, and I know some of the commissioners had some recent incidents as a result of weather events that they felt like would have been prevented by some of the work. And because of the timeline, again, we just went back and asked, where are we on this? What is our timeline? And the last thing we received, which was probably about 2 weeks ago, was that we were looking at least 45 more days until we moved to the next stage with the contracting, if I recall correctly. So
Okay.
it's in line with the same stuff that we've already received, is that we'll be waiting.
Okay, and it was a big chunk of money. How much are we?
6.8, I believe.
6.8.
Wasn't it?
Yeah,
Ballpark,
you're correct.
6.7 something.
I believe you're correct. I think it was 6.8 is correct.
And we split it.
Go back and look at
And we
the-
split it between the 4 precincts
it
for
was-
drainage.
Yes.
That's right.
Now, just to reiterate, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Just to reiterate, what should we be expecting in July?
announcement. So the commissioner will come out and will announce all the applications that have gone through that final approval process and are basically approved to go into contracting. So all of your documents have been approved. We have kind of a backup to our system, so that way we make sure that even our people are double checked. So that's why it does take a little bit longer, but since we're on the second half of our part of the grant where we're going to start, we do HUD audits every quarter.
Right.
We have to make sure that we're accountable to our timeline. So we're making sure that we have all the documentation ahead of time, not trying to get it throughout the grant, which is something different than we did with the disaster recovery first part of it, the infrastructure. And it makes it takes a little bit longer on the front end, but then it'll make the process less.
Well, I mean, as long as in July, if we know that what we put forth has been approved, that's going to be a help, because then we can communicate to our constituents that, look, this did get the nod, this is approved.
Because what's frustrating with us, with all due respect, is, you go out here after rains, you see people with water at their house. Like Telfner is going to be one of the main areas with me that's never had attention in 45 years. And there's a lot of improvements that hopefully through this, is going to help some people. And you go meet people and they got a foot of water in their home. And it just, your heart bleeds for them. It happens in all of our precincts. And I think we all have some of these scoped out to get these areas where it's a dollar number that, of course, that we can't afford with, county funds. It would expend our whole budget, and
I
that's
guess
all.
that-
It's just kind of with us, that's where we are.
It's just an experiment we're not used to dealing with, because I know it was right after we got sworn in, we were picking
It was
projects.
right after.
Yeah, so it's been a while. And so I think that's why we just wanted some clarification, because I don't think we're used to it dragging on like this. Maybe it's the norm, the way it sounds, but at least if we can tell our constituents that the programs or the spots that we pick are going to be approved, and we'll find out in July, that'll be something at least.
And I think the next question would be, what is the general time for the contracting phase? So that way we can plan out a little better as to when we can begin the next process. That way we just have a little heads up and we can start organizing the stage after the contracting. So knowing how long the contracting stage is going to take on average, would be helpful.
Yeah.
Correct.
And on average, it's typically from all the communities. Now, I serve everybody from Colorado, Wharton, and Matagorda, all the way down to Claiborne County. So it's a total of about 19 counties. So the average time has been about 3 months for contracting. But it varies, depending on what's going on the state level too. So, best case scenario is typically 3 months for contracting, but it could be
Okay.
sooner, could be a little bit longer.
So we can at least develop a little bit more of an accurate timeline using that average.
Right.
And then adjust from there. And so we can look at when we go into engineering and then talk to the engineer about when we would
Okay.
be looking at going to bid now.
Shannon,
Is-
the other counties that you're working with, have any of those counties had any approval prior to ours? And if it is, why are we not getting approved sooner?
Yes, so what I've seen typically is what we've been doing across the board has been approving based on the COGS timeline. So when the COG turned in their MIT-mod, they got approved and everything worked, then those communities were put in line. But then there's a whole lot of other factors that factor into that too, is once we get started on applications, how long does it take for the communities to get back to us? What kind of documentation we're having to require because of the projects that are being done. So there's so many factors, it's hard to really put a finger on it and really narrow down that timeline. So that's why we speak in more generalities. But I have to say, Matagorda just got their contract and they were in the HGAC. They're in HGAC. So we've been working with those communities for 2 years. Once they had all of their approvals and they were really going full force. So there are communities that are still it just takes time.
So
unfortunately.
compared to the last mid-mod money that we had, the last time we used this money, that process and that timeline compared to the process and timeline that we're dealing with now, how far off are we?
I wouldn't say you're far off. I think you're in a good place at this point. I think you're not one of the first ones in GCRPC to have been approved. You're probably more on the further side of it, but it's probably because of the size of your project and the amount of money that we're dealing with.
Okay,
So-
so if we don't hear anything in July, in Julio,
I knew you would do that. I knew that.
if we don't hear anything from you guys.
not the correct way
in
to say
July,
it.
What should our stance be at that point? What should we be doing?
Yeah, what's our remedy?
I think right now it's in our hands, so there's nothing really you guys can do. I think Robin and, I think it's GrantWorks, right? Then has been doing a great job of communicating with us. We've been going back and forth, but it just does take a little bit of time. So we have asked, the last time it was in May, I think they said 45 days. We're kind of at the end of that 45 days.
Right.
And so I think, I mean, from what it sounded like, it was pretty positive that you guys are gonna get approved in July, but, we can't say for sure, because there's still a few things that gotta check off.
Shannon, it was like Commissioner Orr was saying, we did this like second month we took office, 2023, it's been over 2 years. And so you can kind of feel our frustration that, when you keep telling people, yeah, we got a plan, it's going to happen. I mean, I actually paved some roads that were on that list. I'm just going to lose out on it. I just couldn't wait any longer, and that's where the frustration, we appreciate what y'all are doing and you're doing. It's just on our end of it, we have a large group of people to answer to every day, and it
With-
just kind of,
with what he just commented on, we've done some of the work that was on our original.
we all have.
Is that going to cause issues because we have to change some of that now? Is that gonna slow the process down?
I was told that we'd lose it.
So
Yeah, I was,
it's gonna be dependent, and the reason that has not been officially addressed is because it would slow things down.
Right.
So the way your projects are typically designed is it's hard to determine like what costs are gonna be. So usually what we've done in the past, if you recall, is we'll go out for bid with some alternates. So other people should be allowed in their precincts to go out for alternates on their bids, because the money that has been freed up was all non-LMI. So it can most likely be moved to other projects that had cost overruns. It may not be your project, it may have been another precinct, but at least the money stays here, hopefully. That's our hope. But because of the timeline, it was not advantageous for us to address that yet.
Okay.
Is that a good answer?
That's a good answer.
All right.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
we just keep our fingers crossed, hope we hear something soon.
Yes.
Cool.
I would say,
All right.
if not, we'll just keep our eyes peeled, because when the next round of approvals will be coming out mid-July, mid to late July.
Okay.
So by the end of July, if we don't hear something, I'll go get a more definitive answer.
We
And
do
we'll
appreciate the
continue
money.
to
though.
request
Yeah.
updates as
Yeah,
well,
that'd be
and
great.
provide them.
Thank you, Shannon.
We thank you so much. We just need some updates, and I appreciate you.
Yes. Well, happy to
Thank
help.
you very much.
And Robin,
Shannon.
we appreciate you
thanks.
as well.
Thank you, Robin.
You.
We appreciate everybody.
Good. And, that reminds me, Madison, did we let the GCRPC know that Commissioner Martin
Yes, sir.
okay.
Yes, sir, and that was ratified in court a few weeks back.
Right, I was just wanting to make sure we sent that to them. Okay, so, very good. Because I think they've got a board meeting coming up this week or next. I saw something about that. Okay, very good, very good. Well, thanks again, Shannon, for being here for that update. Robin as well. Other comments in citizens' communication this morning? If there is nothing else, we'll move right along. Item 4 is to consider approval of minutes and take appropriate action. Each of you have a copy of those minutes in your agenda packets.
Move for
Move,
approval.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. Item 5, consider approval of accounts payable and take appropriate action.
Accounts payable for June 30th, 2025 are $907,481.76. Supplemental payments are $256,604.90.
Move for approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. Thank you, Michelle. Item 6 is to receive monthly and quarterly reports from various county officials and departments and take appropriate action.
Good morning. Today we have the monthly report from the county treasurer.
Move to receive.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. Item 7, consider approval of bond forfeiture releases and take appropriate action.
We have none this morning.
Easy enough. Thank you, Heidi. 8 on our agenda is to consider approval of Citizens Medical Center interim vendor payments. This, I got a copy of this morning. I don't think it's in your agenda packet, but that's the June 26th memo from the hospital showing interim vendor payments to be in the amount of $335,112.04. The ACH report on that same date of 6/26 was in the amount of $3,710,408.67.
Move for approval.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. Item number 9 is to hear an update regarding hurricane preparedness from the Victoria Office of Emergency Management and take appropriate action. Good morning, Rick. Welcome.
You got the slide deck real quick? Good morning.
Oh, here's a slideshow. Okay.
Yeah, just real quick. So just me standing here talking.
Okay.
So obviously we are into hurricane season, started June 1, runs through November. Go to the next slide, please. Yeah, go to the next one. So a couple of 3 things that Jen and I kind of want to bring to the attention of everybody, and especially those that are watching. And why do we get worried about hurricane season? And this is one of the very specific categories we want to focus in on, which is the Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale, which represents some unique things for us. We did kind of change the color scheme on this slightly, simply the fact that it shows up a little bit better up here. But Category 3 hurricane is where we really start looking at our major decision points related to life safety of our citizens, life safety of buildings, things that can start taking on a lot of wind load. Anything after Category 3 hurricane is when it becomes very devastating for us. And so that's usually our general threshold. And Judge, I know you're very familiar with this. Every time we go into an activation mode related to a hurricane, tropical system, we start looking at what's intensification that we're going to have. And so, go to the next slide for me. One of the things we don't want people to ever give doubt to or get complacent about is the return rate of our hurricanes and tropical systems. That is, since 1842, the strikes that have come through the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf of America and have struck the Texas coastline. And so we have a return rate of our major category storm once every 10 years. As a reminder, the last time that the Victoria area was directly impacted by a Category 3 or higher storm is 1961 Hurricane Carla. And so where we oftentimes will say that Hurricane Harvey was a direct impact, it was. It was direct impact for a Category 3 hurricane in the Rockport area. Most of what we experienced with Hurricane Harvey in 2017 was that of Cat 1 and a slight Cat 2 to the southern regions of our county out in the McFadden area. But once every 10-year return rate for us is for a Category 3 hurricane, so we can never let ourselves down or let our preparedness down. And so we got to be careful and be manned and ready to go for whatever might be coming our way. You go to the next one for me. The other thing, the one other point that we want to bring out in our 3 points was the probability of error cone, or called a cone of uncertainty. So the cone of uncertainty has changed a lot for us. And so if you remember back to Hurricane Carla, 1961, those of you that can remember that far back, and or those, all of us that remember back in 2003, Hurricane Claudette, which is a simple Category 1 hurricane. 2005 season was busy for us with Hurricane Katrina and Rita, and then Hurricane Ike in 2008. All of those storms were still using the same satellite imagery and also the cone of uncertainties at that time. And so we had a very difficult time trying to pinpoint where a hurricane might go 5 to 7 days out. In 2016, what they call the GO-16 satellite went up, and that probability of error cone, or cone of uncertainty, really narrowed down for us. So at 5 days out, we now have a lot better understanding where the hurricane might go. So one of the things we always get asked is, well, what about Hurricane Harvey? Hurricane Harvey, remember, we knew Hurricane Harvey was going to make landfall a couple days out. We just didn't know the intensity, and it was a very rapid intensifying storm in 32 hours. And so the cone of uncertainty is really important for us. And this gives us a little bit better planning. So 4 to 5 days out, we can start understanding where the hurricanes might go, and gives us a much better understanding as we're getting ready to get into the batter's box, or do we need to be in the batter's box? And so it really helps us out as the cone of uncertainty has really improved in the last couple of years. And this season shows even more improvement with the new software that's come online. The cone of uncertainty is really narrowed in for us. So basically 5 days out, we have a much better understanding where tropical system might go. Go to the next one. It only takes one. We always talk about it. We don't ever lend our behavior towards the predictions that are out there because the predictions could be off. It could be a high season for predictions of hurricanes. However, it only takes one in our area. And so reminder, in 2020, when we were dealing with COVID and the height of COVID, was the most active season ever. We went into the Greek alphabet with all the named storms. And so it only really takes one. And none of us really remember the hurricane season of 2020 because none of it touched us. It never affected us. Same thing with last year with Hurricane Beryl actually coming around this time. And Hurricane Beryl shifted just a little due east by about 15 miles and spared us a lot of devastation and destruction that Matagorda saw. Quick way you can stay informed is our Code Red platform. And so once again, reminder to the public, we do not have access to your cell phones. There are some ways I can get access to your cell phones, but there's 17 parameters that I have to meet to do just that. And there's a lot of things that go along with it. One of the ways you can stay informed is either signing up for our Code Red, following us on Facebook. You can follow us on the X. You can follow us on social media sites. Tune into your local media. Our PIO team does a fantastic job, as y'all well know, bringing all those social media platforms together, and we speak as one message. And so it's imperative to us. And so we gather all of our information from the National Hurricane Center and the NOAA site out of Corpus Christi, NWS Corpus Christi. And so we try to take their messaging and try to put it forward into our citizens. We do not try to follow the one-off social media platforms that are there to basically get likes. We try to steer away from those, and we really try to focus in. So speaking as one voice, gathering your information from one location is going to be imperative for us. One more. Make this pretty quick. So we do now have our new hurricane preparedness guide. We challenge staff each year to come up with a different theme, and so this year we came out with a new theme and a new look to it. And so if you want to scan that, it gives you the preparedness guide. We don't print a lot of these. I know we had a preparedness activity this past weekend that had approximately about 100 people at it. The health department, Ralph and some of our staff were there with some different sessions, but they were able to print out a few of these and hand them out to the public. And so if you have an opportunity, definitely scan that QR code, go to the Emergency Preparedness Guide, teach you a little bit about preparedness as we move into the season. So pick one topic and read through it, and then see if you and your family are ready to go. So remember, it only takes one for our area, and we're in the middle of it. So any questions for Sal?
Thank you very much, Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
It's always a timely reminder, and what you mentioned is critical, and I know we've been saying that since Hurricane Harvey, but here in Victoria, even though Harvey was a Cat 4, we only hunkered down in Cat 1 conditions. So a lot of people do have the mindset that, well, we endured a Category 4. We saw Category 1 conditions. So had we seen Category 4 conditions, we would have looked like Rockport did, and it was a very different scenario. So you can't let your guard down, and
never
what we saw was critical.
Never want to undermine what Hurricane Harvey brought to us in devastation and destruction within our community, because it was a lot. We had gone through a recent drought a couple of years before that. The vegetative canopy had changed. Harvey showed up like a relative at Thanksgiving and stuck around for a few days with a lot of wind and a lot of rain changing directions. And so we did. We saw about 600,000 cubic yards of debris. And so there was quite a bit of damage and destruction. So we don't ever want to minimize that. But we also don't want to get into a false sense of complacency that we're thinking, well, I wrote out a Cat 4 hurricane, so therefore I can do it again. Victoria did not write out a Category 4 hurricane or Hurricane Harvey.
And that was very,
prepared
very
for it.
important reminder on that. So appreciate it, Rick,
sir.
for all you and your office does, and y'all do great work. And I see Lauren back there. That was an excellent gathering she had of regional PIO communications folks to work to strengthen the collaboration and communication among PIO communication specialists across our region, not just from public entities, but private entities. Because frankly, when something like this or any other disaster arises, we encounter it as a region to where that communication and enmeshed network is extremely valuable, and that's something to establish before, not after or during. So good work on that, Lauren. All right. Well, we again appreciate that update as we get further into hurricane season. Hopefully, that one does not come our way, because I could certainly do without dealing with another hurricane, as I know everybody else can as well. All right, moving on to item number 10, that's to discuss the ongoing reorganization of the Victoria County Fire Marshal's Office and classification/duties of the Assistant Fire Marshal and take appropriate action. This, of course, has been a recent discussion and focus for those maybe new to the discussion or following online. Historically, the airport aircraft firefighting and rescue has been under the county fire marshal's office. We recently saw it prudent and fitting to put ARF directly under the airport, separate those two functions and groups. And so there was discussion on the assistant fire marshal role. To what extent will that be utilized? Is it needed? I think the consensus, as we've discussed that further, is that we do want that role there. The most recent discussions on it appear to indicate that a part-time role would suffice for now. This is going to tie into a larger discussion of planning and forecasting that we're going to be doing in the weeks and months ahead pertaining to our volunteer departments. We, of course, have 10 volunteer departments throughout the county, ranging in size and in activity level. And we're really seeing a need to have a longer-term game plan with regard to the funding of those departments, equipping of those departments. Because the fact is, most of the new growth in the community is out in the county, the subdivisions and whatnot, the new homes, and a lot of that increasing demand for emergency services is being met by our volunteer departments, which of course are volunteer. Resources is always a challenge and a struggle. Also, certainly with regard to grass fires, it's the volunteer departments that are generally the ones first responding to and best equipped to deal with those. So the question that needs further attention and that we're going to be focusing on in the coming weeks and months as we get into budget is planning for these volunteer departments. I know the county has provided some support to all of them over the years. In a perfect world, it would be more, and I think it can be more and should be more, but it's going to be a larger discussion. That, of course, ties into the county fire marshal's office. I think for our purposes this morning would just be getting consensus from the court. While we previously discussed not filling that number 2 position, my conversations about it with many folks have indicated that we should have that role, at least in a part-time capacity for now. And so that's what we'd want discussion on, because it's still in our budget. We haven't technically made any changes to it, but we'll need to know how to advertise the role, how to recruit for the role, how many hours a week is that going to be. I know with a part-time role, we can go up to how many hours a week, Gianni? 30? 30?
Yes, 29 or less.
29 or less. And I know we've talked about this over the weeks, but that's, I think, the decision we're at now. Do we make the position a 29-hour week or less? There was previously conversation about not filling it, which I don't think at this point anybody is supportive of, but what's the consensus on that?
I think it'd be a good idea to move forward with trying to establish this as a part-time position, and then obviously with the hiring of the fire marshal at some point, listening to them, gathering their input, and looking at what their needs are, and if there's a need to do something different based on what the fire marshal passes down to us, then we can look at that at that time.
I think that's a good approach. I do.
Kind of where do we shift to, at first not wanting to have an assistant to now having one? Where did that kind of
Well,
come in?
Well, a ton of the job duties and responsibilities were shifted out of that office to the
Yeah.
airport, with the ARF moving over there, which, used to be contained underneath the fire marshal's office, so it took a big workload and a lot of things off the fire marshal's office and shifted them over to the airport.
Yeah, so part of the thought process was with that shifting over to the airport exclusively, is this role needed in the same way it was? We went around and around on that, back and forth, but I think that having it is needed. Our goal
Okay.
in all this was to make the office more streamlined. We certainly don't want to do anything that would reduce the effectiveness of the fire marshal's office, so I think this is a good step. Again, the action here would be to advertise that as a part-time role at this point.
Got you.
Then if needed, expand that to when and if needed, expand that to a full-time role. And as Commissioner Martin said, I think a lot of that would be indicated by whoever we put in the number one spot, the fire marshal role, to tell us what's needed, when, and where.
Sounds fair enough.
Sounds good to me. I just
think it's.
had a little small question.
Okay, yeah, and anything else relevant on this topic, the way it's posted, we could have that discussion now. In talking to a lot of our volunteers, there is a desire for, in collaboration with the county fire marshal's office and commissioner's court, a more long-range planning effort. 3 to 5 years out. Because a lot of the purchases, the grants, the planning are multi-year efforts. And that's something that I want to do during our budget process.
Right.
And frankly, we'll probably want to have it as a special workshop going forward. But all of this ties together, because obviously we have the contract with the city of Victoria. But all of this ties together. So
I
that's
believe, like,
probably
from
something-
everybody I've spoke with volunteer and chiefs and stuff, one of the main concerns was that the fire marshal was gonna still go out to fires in the county. That was my concern also, and I've told everybody that is the case.
Yeah.
Still gonna respond to fires.
Absolutely. Well, in having this number two spot to offer backup relief whenever the number one person's out or on vacation, that
Good.
ensures that they will be able to
I
respond.
think that was
to-
one of the bigger
Yeah, I
concerns.
think that was because we were talking about, okay, what happens when they're on vacation or they are sick or something like that? You have somebody, at least in a part-time capacity, to take call and do that, or you can maybe work out a
Good.
rotation as well.
Yeah, sounds good.
So what do you need here, Judge, a
Yeah.
motion or what?
The actual,
It was just to discuss, wasn't it?
yeah, that probably would be the best step, because what we would do is craft that job description as a part-time, 30-hour role and a corresponding budget amendment to be able to do that. So, yeah, if I could have a motion to
consider a part-time,
to establish the assistant fire marshal as a part-time role and execute any budget amendment necessary to effectuate that change.
so move.
Second.
Okay. And again, we can revisit this. If it turns out that needs to be full-time, I think the court is prepared to do that.
Yeah.
But this will be as part of a larger planning effort. But all those in favor of approval?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. Michelle, any specifics on your end? I would anticipate a question about how this may work. It'd be on the HR side, the job description, then also a budget amendment. Are we missing anything?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Right now, their budget is still intact. We
Yeah.
didn't take anything out of it. So during the process of how we're gonna do things, we can do budget amendments as needed
Okay.
then.
Because with the ARF split, we've already moved ARF.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's, more complex than what it appears on the surface, but we'll be working through that. Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Yes, sir.
All right, and we can revisit that as needed. We'll move on to item number 11. I think Commissioner Garcia can update us on this. This is to discuss and consider advertising a solicitation to lease the old Bloomington Little League field to an officially chartered Little League organization and take appropriate action.
Judge, a few years ago, what we found out is that the county owns the property that the Bloomington Little League has assumed that they own for years. It turns out the county owns it.
Sounds like another one
It's-
of them deals you.
It hasn't been used in years. It's being worked on again, trying to bring the Little League back to Bloomington. And the Port of Victoria, the Navigation District, has graciously offered to help rebuild some of the field, specifically the fence.
That's nice.
And so I contacted Kevin Cullen to help us through the process to make sure that whatever we were agreeing to put together an interlocal agreement with us, the group that's working with rebuilding the Little League field, to make sure that we were doing everything legally. That's where we're at right now. And so Kevin has come up with an idea of creating a lease agreement with the organization that would give them use of that property as a Little League field, only for Little League softball or youth activities, at a cost of $0. He'll put that together. We'll run that through court and see what we all agree to.
And that would need to be put out as a public solicitation,
It
where in theory.
legally has to be
Yeah.
done that way.
Okay. In practicality, though, there's not gonna, I mean, there's one organization down there that, okay. But that's just a,
Yeah, it's just
Step we have
creating an
to take.
interlocal agreement with them,
Okay.
and being able to run that through
okay.
court.
Well, I'm glad to see that field put back into use. How long has that been dormant?
Well, I'm 63 years old, 3 years old, and I played on that field.
Golly, 100 years old?
It's been a while.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Little League is trying to be revitalized in Bloomington, and they're gonna bring it back to life.
Danny,
This
where's
would
the
be-
fields at over there?
The field is
I
located
was
on
trying to
Fifth
think.
Street, down from the Dairy Queen,
Okay,
yeah. And the county owns the property.
right,
And
okay.
what we're finding out is that the county owns several properties in Bloomington. They have a soccer field.
Is that a good,
Little League
is that a good thing?
Um,
Yeah,
No. So we're trying to work it out to where the people that actually use it, that we have legal agreements with them. Okay, that's all this is. So with all that discussion, I move for approval.
Second.
Thank you very much for taking the lead on that, Commissioner. Do we have a motion to approve the advertising and solicitation?
So move.
Motion and second.
he seconded.
I thought we had,
Yeah,
Okay.
motion, he second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved.
All right. Good stuff.
Item number 12 is to consider approval of the biannual food vendor bids for the Victoria County Sheriff's Office and take appropriate action. In your packet, you have a memo from the sheriff requesting approval, and we can do that with a motion.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. Item number 13. Receive the following fully executed Best Friends Grant Program agreements for the record and take appropriate action. A is Network Neighbors Kits, and B, Partner Up Program. I know this is just receiving for the record, but Mark, is there anything additional we might need to know on this?
No, they just, the way they sent out this grant info was a little confusing, and I just want to make sure it all got entered appropriately.
Okay.
Be another one next week. We just got notice Thursday, I think that we won another $1,000 award grant, which will come to
Nice.
court next week for a Return to Home Challenge.
That always helps.
Yeah, we're working hard, trying to keep them busy, and I keep Robin and her staff busy with all the stuff
Yeah, you
going on.
do. Good job. Speaking of the completion date for the new facility, we're still looking at, what, September, October-ish?
September, they should be done with the interior remodel, and then it'll
Okay.
be, depends where we're at with kennels, and then the rest of the furnishings. We have right now, we're waiting on a project quote for the office equipment and stuff that we need in there.
Gotcha. Okay, okay.
That's coming along quickly.
Very good. Well,
Appreciate
thanks
it.
for all you do,
No, I
Mark.
appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Do we have a motion to approve 13A and B?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. Item 14 is to consider the following regarding the request for proposals for the Victoria County Health Department spray truck building project. On this, we're just going to do item A, and that's to receive for the record fully the executed contract with Logger Companies, Inc. We're going to wait to reject all unawarded proposals at this time. So this would be a motion to approve 14A.
Move to approve 14A.
Second.
Motion and a second. John, anything additional we might need to know?
No, sir, we are waiting on the finalization of their bonds, so that's the delay of rejecting the other proposals. Once we receive the bonds from Logger, then we will have the court receive that and reject the other bids.
Very good. Thank you, John. All those in favor of 14A?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. Item number 15 is to consider approval of the following contracts for the Victoria County Regional Juvenile Justice Center. A is a residential contract with Hidalgo County. B, residential contract with Montgomery County. And C is detention and residential contracts with Fisher, Mitchell, and Nolan counties.
Move for approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. Item 16 is to consider approval of the following road donations and take appropriate action. A, Resolution 2025-055 for corrugated pipe valued at $592.94 from John Kopecki at 150 Stale Road in Precinct 3. And B, Resolution 2025-056 for a corrugated pipe valued at $1,200 from Reed Schiffbauer at Edna Lane in Precinct 1.
Move to approve A and B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approval?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. We'll each need signatures on both of those. Item 17 is to receive for the record discretionary fund budget amendment from the Sheriff's Commissary Fund 380. This is looks like it's moving 40 grand within that budget to supplies, again, for our records only.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. Item 18 is to consider approval of the following 2025 budget amendments and take appropriate action. A is general fund, various departments expenditures. B, capital projects fund expenditures.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. Let's see, we don't have any personnel this week. Wait,
Yeah, you do.
did I miss it? Okay, that's a closed session. All right, so that concludes our open session items. Our next item on the agenda will be item number 19, which is closed meeting pursuant to VTCA Government Code 551074 to discuss personnel in various departments, and 551072 to discuss real property. We will go into closed session now at 10:50 for those purposes, and I don't expect any action when we come out of closed session. So appreciate everybody's attendance today. I will be out next week. Commissioner Garcia will lead the meeting very effectively as per usual.
Pro tem hat.
And we'll discuss the correct pronunciation of Montana Spanish.
Will do. All right, thank you all. We're going to closed session. Put over here.
I don't like.
All right, we are coming out of closed
If I need to rip
session
some,
at
well,
12:55 PM. Returning to open meeting pursuant to VTCA Government Code 551.102. There is no action that we need to take based on our discussion in closed session, and we will stand adjourned at 12:55.